meeting, but we're going to go ahead and get started. This is the Wednesday, January 13th, 2021 Ttcc meeting of the Kipta organization. First of all, I want to welcome everybody for coming, and what we'll do is, Amanda, you're going to do a roll call vote to see who's here.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Jim. If everybody would go ahead and unmute themselves so when I call in, I can hear. Judge Jerry Summers. Felicia Harper. Keith Griffey.
Here.
Mayor Treva Hodges. Matt Minier. Mayor Deeriff. Mayor Mike Moore.
Andy Crouch for Mayor Moore.
Thank you, Andy. Chad Reiskel. Mayor Armstrong.
Here.
Elizabeth Hardin. Lori Pacino.
I can speak for both of them. They're not here.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Jeff Gahan. John Rosenbarger. Chris John Streeps. Larry Summers. Mayor Hockenberry. Arthur Jones. Scott Fleming. Keenan Stratman.
Here.
Bernie Bowling. Brian Dixon. Jeff Baker. Stacia Franklin. Don Lopp. Justin Tackett. Sean Seals. Kathy Eaton McCallum. Emmanuel Nusonwu. Robin Bolte.
Here.
Maria Bouvet. Matt Yates. Leslie Poff. Tanya Higdon.
She's
Here.
there we go.
Here.
Matt Bullock. Steve Ross. Thomas Witt. Tom Hall.
Here.
Tracy Lovell.
Here.
Eric Perez.
Here.
Derek Morris. Tabitha Martin. Keith Talley. Bradley Combs. Craig Butler.
Here.
Michelle King.
Here.
Rachel Hamilton. Michael King.
Here.
Rachel Casey.
Here.
Jeff O'Brien. Beth Stuber. Emily Lou.
Here.
Joe Reberman.
Here.
Thank you. Vanessa Burns. Amanda Deathridge.
Here.
Dirk Gowan.
Here.
Dan Mann. Bob Slattery. Brian Sinwell. Judge Vogel.
Jim Urban for Judge Vogel.
Jim Silliman.
Here.
Kevin Nuss. Amy Albee. Belinda Demas. Jeff Miles. George Ott. Bill Wright. Brittany Montgomery. Thought I saw Brittany.
Thought I saw her log in earlier too.
Okay, let me circle back. Kevin Beatty. Ryan Ramsey. Carrie Butler. Ida Kopik.
Here.
Jeffrey Hoban. And I'm going to go back and read Matt Minier.
Here.
Okay. Thanks. We are in great shape, Chairman.
Well, great. Thanks for doing that. So that will also suffice as our introductions of everybody. We usually live go around the table, but and understanding that there's probably a couple of screens worth of people here. In the past, when we've done these Zoom meetings, when we do have an action item, I'll ask for a motion. If you can not only speak up, raise your hand, just so we can identify who made the motion, and then second. And then as typically I've done, I ask for anybody in opposition to the motion, and then just assume after that that everybody else votes in favor. It'd be too hard to count everybody on multiple screens. So we're going to use that same protocol today. So with that, the first item is the November 2020 Ttcc meeting minutes approval, and action is requested. Would anybody like to make a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved, Jim. Keith Griffey.
Keith Griffey made a motion. Is there a second?
Second. Dirk going.
Great, thank you. Appreciate you doing it that way. Dirk Goen makes a second. Any questions about the motion, first of all? All right, or corrections to the minutes? There being none, anybody in opposition to approval of the minutes? Hearing none, I'll take that as a unanimous approval of the minutes for November 2020. The next item is the Transportation Policy Committee report by Amanda.
Thank you. The Transportation Policy Committee, TPC, met on November 24th at 12:30 via Zoom. That would have been our normal big annual meeting. Carrie Butler, TARC's new executive director, gave a presentation about sort of her vision, goals, and plans for TARC. Very informative, great presentation. You can always find all of our committee meetings on YouTube, but that one, if you missed that one, it's a good one to go check out. TPC approved Amendment 2 to the MTP and TIP. It included 28 new or revised projects, and we had received 42 public comments on Amendment 2. Also, this week, we received final federal approval on Amendment 2, just FYI. In November, TPC approved 2 clarifications to our project management guidebook, which outlines all the rules around our dedicated funds. And this committee set those for TPC approval, of course. They included the clarification that we'll have up to 4 opportunities for sponsors to submit cost increases each year, and that these new phase shift rules in the PMG, that those are a clean slate approach. Any previous phase shifts that sponsors had made don't count against sponsors under the new PMG. TPC also approved 62 project phase shifts and 4 cost increases. A lot of those phase shifts were related to this new PMG, folks kind of settling up and adjusting to the new guidance. Nick Vale shared fiscal year 20 obligations with TPC in November. That was $4.6 million obligated in Indiana funds and $9.3 million in Kentucky funds. TPC gave final approval on our Coordinated Human Services Transportation Plan. So that's now ready for TARC to use as they award Section 5310 funds, and also for the community and providers as a resource. Kipta was happy to award the 2020 KITE Award, Kentucky Indiana Transportation Excellence Award. First runner-up was Oldham County's Park and Ride, and the winner was the Dixie Highway Bus Rapid Transit Project, and that award went to Kytc, TARC, and Louisville Metro. We also shared with TPC Administrative Modification 10, and last, Mayor Chapman appointed a nominating committee to develop a recommendation for the TPC Vice Chair. And that nominating committee included Bernie Bowling, Carrie Butler, and Keith Griffey. And again, that's for vice chair because per our bylaws, the Kipta board chairman gets sort of first right of refusal to be the TPC chairman. And we were very pleased that Kevin Beatty accepted that. So he'll be the TPC chairman. That concludes my TPC report, and I'd be glad to take any questions.
Okay, thank you, Amanda. Any questions of that report by Amanda? Okay, hearing or seeing none, we'll move on to the next item, which is the public comment period. And we're going to have a review of comments submitted prior to the TTCC meeting. Greg Burris, let's see. Oh, yeah, I do see you there. Thank you.
Sir, we did not receive any comments prior to the meeting, and there have not been anything listed in the chat yet.
Yeah, I don't see anything on the chat either. So That said, are there any other public comments from anybody that might have joined us here live on Zoom? And again, I cannot see
I
everyone.
don't see anything. I
Yeah,
don't see anything on the chat. I think
Great.
we are good.
great. Okay, with that, we'll then go on to the next item, which is election of the 2021 Transportation Technical Coordinating Committee officers. Those of you that know me are going to roll your eyes a little bit because Jim Urban always has a story to tell, but this one's kind of fun and short. This being my last meeting as chair of the TTCC, it's January 13th, 2021. My very first meeting as chair, and I've been chair I think 3 different times, a couple of years each time. But my very first one was January 13th, 1999. And I'll always remember that day. I had to call Tom Clevidence, who was vice chair, and said, brother, I can't make it. You're going to have to go and chair the meeting. He said, why did we elect you if you're missing the first meeting? Well, my excuse was that my daughter was born. So on the very first meeting that I chaired, I had to miss because Emily was born. And here on my very last meeting, it's her 22nd birthday. So in those 22 years, let me just tell you that I thoroughly enjoyed every staff member at Kipta that I had interaction with, all of the different directors I worked with. I think I can get them all. Harold Tull, Norm Nezelkevich, first of all, Harold Tull, Larry Cheney, and now Amanda. Every staff member, both the present ones and those that have retired. There has been just such an incredible level of expertise and professionalism, cooperation among all the Kipta staff members, and it has been my absolute pleasure to serve them all. So thank you. With that, I'm going to call on Jim Silliman. We had a committee that we put together. It was Keith Griffey, Andy Crouch, myself, and Jim Silliman, and I'm going to let Jim announce the results and our recommendation for the officers.
Thank you, Jim. So the nominating committee, as noted, met via telephone, and nominations were unanimous. Keith Griffey accepted the nomination to be chair. So I'd ask for a motion, I think.
Well, I think first of all, Jim, the rules of order, that's
Okay.
the recommendation from the committee. The voting members of TTCC have an opportunity to recommend anybody else that they would want to consider in that position. And then I'll close the floor once we have not a full slate of nominees for the chair. So with that, again, the committee recommends Keith Griffey as the chair. Does anybody else have a nomination they would like to make for chair? Hearing none, we'll go ahead then and I'll accept a motion for that recommendation to nominate Keith Griffey as the chair.
Barry Armstrong, I make a motion that Keith be nominated.
Barry, thank you. Mayor, if there's a second.
Second.
Dirk.
Okay, I heard both Andy and Dirk. I'm going to call on Dirk. Andy was on the committee, so we appreciate your recommendation and participation, Andy. I'm going to close the floor for nominations. So is there a motion? Now that was to close the nominations. Is there a motion to accept Keith as our chair?
Barry Armstrong, so move.
Thank you, Mayor. Is there a second?
Second, Dirk.
Dirk seconds. I'll ask for anybody that is in opposition to the motion to elect Keith Griffey as our chair to speak up now. Hearing or seeing none, I'll accept that all other members, voting members that are present today, vote in favor of Keith Griffey as our chairman. Keith, congratulations. I hope you'll enjoy it like I did.
Thank you all very much. And Jim, you got big shoes to fill, but I'll do the best I can, but I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
They're only size 8s. And again, remember, you got a great staff to work with. So Jim Silliman, if you would, the nomination for vice chair.
And that would be Brittany Montgomery as nominated by the committee.
Thank you. Are there any other members, voting members present today that would like to nominate an additional person for vice chair? Hearing none, I'll close the floor to nominations. Is there a motion to accept the nomination of Brittany Murphy as vice chair?
Motion to accept. Dirk.
Dirk Goen makes a motion. Is there a second?
Keith Griffey, second.
Keith, thank you. There's a motion and a second. All those in favor of the nomination of Brittany Montgomery say, well, actually, any in opposition? Got myself out of order here. I hear no opposition, so I'll assume that all other voting members vote in favor of that nomination. So now that the slate is closed, is there a motion to accept Brittany Murphy as our vice chair? Brittany Montgomery, sorry. Mayor, I can see that you're talking, but I can't hear you, so you're still muted.
Now I'm open.
There you go.
Barry Armstrong will make that motion.
Okay. There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second, Ida.
Aida Kopic seconds the motion. So the motion is that Brittany Montgomery be the vice chair for 2021. Any of those members present in objection to that motion? Great. Hearing or seeing none, I'll take it that all other voting members voted in favor. Thank you all. I think you got a great slate of officers for the coming year. The next item is quarterly review of the MPO dedicated funds. And that is Nick. There you are, Nick.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Oh, perfect. Thank you, Amanda, for setting up the presentation. This is the, again, the quarterly project review of our MPO dedicated funding programs. These are the programs that TPC has the authority to award funds from. And so on a quarterly basis, we give you guys an update on how. Now, just a reminder with the new project management guidebook, Indiana sponsors are still submitting quarterly progress reports and meeting quarterly because of NDOT requirements. However, Kentucky project sponsors, as per the recommendations of the working group and TPC, are only doing that semi-annually now. So this quarter, there were no progress report updates from Kentucky project sponsors, which is why you don't see a summary of those projects in your packet. Quick kind of overview of how things are going in Indiana for fiscal year 2021. We've got the four funding programs listed on the top row with the funds programmed at the beginning of the fiscal year. Below that, the obligations, and then how much money has been unobligated. Again, Indiana started their fiscal year in July, and there was only about $156,000 obligated this past quarter, and that was in the Surface Transportation Block Grant Program. I believe that was for Riverside Drive, some funds for right-of-way. Otherwise, it was not a whole lot of activity this quarter, but as is the norm in Indiana, the bulk of the obligations typically occur between January and April. So I think we're from what I've heard from project sponsors, things are all on track. I haven't heard anybody slipping with their phases, which is a big deal in Indiana. We try to get out ahead of that because of because we're not able to carry over. So does anybody have any questions or comments about Indiana? Okay. Moving on to Kentucky. Again, this was the first quarter of fiscal year 2021. Not a whole lot of obligations, which is not unusual. Typically, the bulk of the obligations in Kentucky happen, I would say, between April and the end of the fiscal year, which is in September. We reshuffled a lot of the project schedules, as Amanda mentioned last meeting in November. The sponsors kind of reorganized how their schedules were lined up for projects in order to create something that was more achievable. And I think here I just want to kind of hit the big points of We receive about $21 million annually in the Surface Transportation Block Grant Program. That's always kind of the goal we're setting for, is to at least get 21 million obligated, because if we don't, we end up adding to our carryover balance, which did occur in 2020. In 2019, we actually cut the carryover balance down about 3 or 4 million, but COVID didn't happen. COVID's still going on. There was all sorts of issues with project sponsors moving forward, but hopefully in 2021, we can get back to that at least $21 million worth of obligations in the program. And then the Transportation Alternatives Program, there weren't any obligations this quarter. Again, that's not unusual. We are, shooting for the obligation of at least $2.3 million, which is a little more sensitive with this program because there's always the possibility with TA funds that they lapse. And when they lapse, that means they haven't been enough funds haven't been obligated within 3 years of the funding appropriation. So that's something we always work with KYTC's central office and program management. And they do a good job of helping us across the state make sure we haven't lost any TA funds since I've been here. But it will be important to hit that $2.3 million target this year. Any questions about Kentucky program status? Okay. Moving on, we have a few. We do have an action requested. We received in Kentucky cost increase requests from Jeffersontown for the Waterston Trail Phase 1 project. They needed a little bit more for design, as well as additional funds in fiscal year 2021 for construction. I've talked to Matt Meunier about this. They're pretty confident. They're hopeful that this is a project that's going to get to construction this fiscal year. And so these additional funds are needed to make sure that enough when they go out for the bid. So those are the two cost increases. It's $150,000 for design and $300,000 for construction. And as a reminder, with cost increases, staff is kind of recommending these. No longer is a working group needed unless we don't have enough funds to cover all the requests. So there was one other phase shift, and this was just one that wasn't caught back in November that we didn't bring to you all. It's KYTC's Kentucky 146 Sidewalks project, and they are shifting the construction phase from 20 to fiscal year 2021. I can take any questions or comments about these requests prior to requesting action.
Yeah, I have a question, Nick. This is Tom Hall with District 5. And
Yes.
the action I'm wondering about is the second cost increase, Waterston Trail Phase 1. That says increase fiscal year 21 construction phase by $300,000. And I was just looking at the cost matrix for all of the LPA projects that are in the SLO program. And I thought that Waterston Trail Phase 1 was funded in fiscal year 2022.
Yeah, good point. So what's going on there is when we reset schedules back in November and we did all these phase shifts, Matt wasn't entirely confident that they were going to make it to construction in 2021. So he moved it to 2022. In the last couple of weeks, I've talked to him, and as part of Admin Mod 12, which will be presented to TPC in 2 weeks, we'll be moving that construction phase from 2022 to 2021. So I'm glad you brought that up. That is a good clarification. So this increase is for 2020, because I had that same question that you had, Tom. But his intent is to move that project forward because I think he's confident that, or hopeful that construction those funds will be obligated this fiscal year.
Okay, well, I just wanted to let everyone know that there are, for fiscal year 2021 right now, there are 26 funding agreements in the SLO program that the cabinet is going to have to help LPAs facilitate. Every local government that asked for money in 2021 This is in that group of 26. And so this would make it 27 projects that are seeking funds in 2021. And so, just from a guy who has had experience, I have a sense that is somebody might get shoved out or their project might get delayed because the cabinet might end up working on a project that was funded in 22, but now is going to be funded in 21. So 22 project is being accelerated. And, we were already planning on authorizing all these 26 other jobs. If we add another job, 27, it's just going to make it that much harder. So there are, if some of your work gets delayed or you're not getting a response from the cabinet, we got a big caseload and this makes it worse. So I just wanted everybody to be aware of that. And that's a big project too, $2.5 million.
Yeah, no, fair point. In my conversations with Matt Mounier, I think is on here, he can speak to that, but I think he made it, aware to me that I think maybe this is their highest priority. But yeah, that's a great point to bring up. 26, now 27 agreements. And I think the worst case scenario was if we don't give them the funding now and they actually can make it to obligate funding for construction, they wouldn't have the funds available. So this was kind of hedging bets that hopefully that can occur, but good point, Tom.
The other comment I would make is that the phase shift, I'm sure showing that Kentucky 146 Sidewalk project. We awarded that project last month in December, and it's awarded to Louisville Paving Company, and it has a project completion of like July. So, I think we could withdraw that phase shift request.
Okay. So you'd like to formally withdraw the phase shift request for the Kipta ID 2508?
I mean, I have to go back and look and see if what funding year it was authorized out of, but yeah, probably so.
Okay. So if the funds have already been obligated, then it doesn't sound like there's a need to do this. So I guess for the committee's notes, my action is being revised to just recommend that TPC approve, that TTCC recommend that TPC approve the 2 cost increases listed above and not include the phase shift. Any other questions or comments before a vote is taken? Okay.
So hey, Nick, so your vote is including actually Waterson Trail, it's $2 million project moving from fiscal year 22 to 21.
That is a request from Jeffersontown, yes.
Okay.
Matt Mounier, are you on here? Do you want to speak to that at all?
Matt, I can't see you. I'm not sure if you're trying to talk to us. Can anybody?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. We had our constructability meeting this morning for phase 1, which is the subject of these cost increases. The design dollars is in order to accommodate 100% oversight in the construction, engineering, and inspection. That's why that cost increase is there. When this project was set up back in 2012, we were under the impression utilizing more of a resident inspector. So the level of funding necessary to accomplish current standards required us to seek additional funds for the design phase in order to accommodate construction, engineering, and inspection. We have submitted all the PD&C items to the district. We reviewed all of them this morning, and the project managers have really indicated that we're pretty close to getting this project ready for construction and submitted for funding authorization. We were cleaning up a few last minute items that we're going to be going through over the next 2 weeks. So yeah, we are confident that this project can move forward in this fiscal year. Part of the reason why, like Nick reiterated, that when we updated the project management manual, we were advised to evaluate our projects and being that we're going to create a clean slate and start with a date that we think is realistic, but with the understanding that if something is ready sooner, it could be, moved up ahead of schedule. So that's kind of our target here. This project has emerged a lot closer than even some other projects to be able to seek this funding authorization within this fiscal year, and we're confident we can achieve that goal.
I appreciate that, Matt.
Thank you, Nick.
Any other questions or comments about this action?
Hey, Nick, I guess let's make sure we're squared away on 146. So Tom, are you saying that you think the funds may have been obligated before October 1st?
Yeah, I just looked it up, but what I'm going to tell you is they were just adjusted on January 7th, so maybe we ought to just leave it alone.
Okay, thank you.
Kind of asking for permission after the fact, but it is what it is.
So just leave it in this request, Tom, or?
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay, right on.
Sorry for the confusion.
Oh, no problem. Okay. So any other questions or comments? And I'll hand it over to Jim after that. All right.
Okay. I again, jump in here if we're not hearing or seeing you, if you have any other comments or questions. And if there aren't, what we're looking for is a motion to recommend a TPC the approval of the cost increases and phase shift for these 3 projects listed on your screen. Anybody want to make a motion?
Keith Griffey, so moved.
Keith makes a motion to recommend a TPC. Is there a second?
I'll make that motion, Barry Armstrong.
That would be a second, Mayor Armstrong. Any questions about the motion itself or the projects? There being none, is there anybody who wants to speak in opposition to the motion? All right, hearing and seeing none, I'll take it as a unanimous decision to recommend to the TPC the approval of the cost increase and phase shifts. Thanks, Nick. The next item is the Kipta Online Resource Center updates. Adam.
All right, thank you. Can you all hear me okay?
Yep.
Great. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. All right, so to get started, basically you go to the Kipta.org website, go to transportation. There's a bunch of different ways to get there, but I'm just going to show you. Well, I got to move a window here. How do I get rid of you? All right, there we go. Sorry about that. All right, so to get started, does anybody know how to get rid of the video grid? There we go. All right. Sorry, it was blocking my screen. All right, so to get started, you go to Kipta.org, you go to Data and Resources, and then scroll down, and then there's a little link to the Online Resource Center. So as you all know, we've had previous versions of the Online Resource Center. This is just an updated version that has a little more capabilities. It allows you to turn things on and off together and compare things in a little nicer way. This is just one of the tools that we've used for our long range planning and for short range planning, and allows you all to have access to the data that we use on a day-to-day in our different planning things. It's a pretty basic web map, but it has several tools. You can zoom in, zoom out. If you zoom in, this button takes you back to the home. I'm just going over the basic tools of it real quick. You can change the background legend. So we'll just go in and jump into the data. So if you're interested in, say, an area, you can type in an address and it pulls it from so basically you can zoom into an area, of interest for you. And then as on the previous one, we had groups of data. We have updated the groups of data into different tabs. You can turn on one tab or you can open all of them. I'll just show you what they are. So we have bike ped, transit, safety, freight. We've got a roads layer, demographic and land use layer, and then a planning layer, which has some of our boundaries and projects and whatnot. Some of the neat things about this version, I'll just close some of them, is that you can open multiple ones from different, and I know it's sort of blocking the screen here, but you can open different layers at the same time from different categories. That was a function that we weren't able to use before, and now this kind of allows you to compare, different things that you would want to know. One of the things that's you can turn on all the layers at once if you want to, and I'll just zoom around a little bit just to show you some of the things that come on. So you have different different layers pop up. I'll open the demographics. We've got major employers, different clusters, basically all the different tools that we've used in the recent long range plan and in our different transportation planning. One of the things that you can also do is if you want to say, change the transparency so you can, so things show up or disappear on the screen, you can do that as well. We'll zoom in and, all right. So, you can change the background if you want to see, imagery and whatnot. And here's a legends, legend so you can tell what you're looking at when you have the different tabs on and off. So it just, we reorganized the tool and allows you to do different things. You can measure if you want to on the map. And then you can, it also down here, wherever you move your cursor, it shows you where you are on the earth, if you're looking for a certain project. Still have the pop-up windows. So any item that you turn on, you can click on that item and it will show you information about that. And then we also have a data dictionary that will show you the vintage of the data and basically tells you information about about the different data that's available on the screen. Just wanted to show you this real quick. This is the very beginning of some of the tools that we're creating for the next planning update. We're in the process of updating all the data currently. We're working on crashes, and bike and pet inventory is one of the larger things that we're working on right now. So we just want to give you a real quick demo of some of the tools that we're making available for you and how they've been updated and how we're going to continue to improve those. Does anyone have any questions?
Hey, Adam, this is Amanda Deathridge. I want to commend you. I think the changes you've made are awesome. I can't wait to play around with the new resource center. But while you were poking around, I didn't see the red flag inventory. Is that still on there?
So what we've decided was, I don't know if you remember, there were, I believe, like almost 50 to 60 layers. We have just recently updated some of those, and we will be adding that. And it may be a separate tool, but if you find that it's something that you would like us to put back together, we can do that. It was just so overwhelming that we decided to make it a separate application, but we're open for any suggestions. And yeah, that will be coming in the near future. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, awesome. We definitely use it. So whatever format you think you guys can present it, we'll definitely be users of it.
Okay, great. Appreciate it.
If I could add real quick, Amanda, we are creating a maps and apps section on our website, and the red flag inventory will be on that maps and apps section.
All right. Thank you, sir.
There is one message on the chat from Chester Hicks, and I'm fumbling to find it again, but it just, it says, "This looks awesome. Adam, this looks awesome. Great work by the GIS team."
All right. Thanks, Chester. We appreciate it. And I should mention that Zach Herzog was the actual staff member who updated and created most of this this app. So should give him credit. Thank you.
Right. Anything else for Adam before we move on? There was no action requested on this. Adam, thanks for the information. And again, it is really a great, useful tool. I look forward to using it as well.
Thank you all.
Let's see, wait a minute. There's one more chat, see if it's relating to this. I'm not sure, Amanda, if maybe I'm rereading the same one that was already posted. Next item is, sorry,
I don't see anything, Jim.
Okay, thanks. Next item is the schedule for amendment number 3 to the Connecting Kentuckiana 2040 Metropolitan Transportation Plan and the fiscal year 2020-2025 Transportation Improvement Program. Nick.
Yes, thank you. I think Amanda's going to throw the Amendment 3 schedule up here for us to, for me to cover for you guys. As she mentioned earlier in the TPC report, I think it was maybe Monday of this week, we received the conformity determination from Federal Highways for Amendment 2. That has been sent to both states for inclusion in their STIP. So all those changes, project changes, along with the performance target changes, have been communicated to both state DOTs. And we're getting ready to begin the next amendment. There's always projects that need to be changed, modified, or added. And we've also heard from several folks who may have projects that need to go through this Amendment 3 process. Just for a quick clarification, we've got 2 ways to change projects, 2 ways to add or modify projects, and that is through admin mods and amendments. Any new projects that qualify under our group projects threshold that TPC approved can be added via admin mod, which means no action needed, and there's no public comment period and no air quality analysis. If there are changes to existing projects that are just changing things like funding amounts and aren't changing the scope of a project or anything like that, then typically those can also be handled as admin mods. Anything else really needs to go through the amendment process. And so that requires us to do air quality analysis to make sure the changes that are being made conform to the National Air Quality Standards, and go through a 15-day public comment period. So the next opportunity for project sponsors to add, modify, or remove projects as part of the MTP or TIP is Amendment 3, and the project's applications will be due by February 1st. I know this seems like a short turnaround, but we did send out communication a couple weeks ago to all TPC and Ttcc members about the schedule. So there's been at least a month heads up. Once we receive those projects, staff will review them. That normally takes a couple weeks. Then we begin the air quality conformity activities in partnership with the Air Pollution Control District, as well as our federal and state partners. After that, we go through our 15-day public comment period, which we plan to hold in mid to late April. Comments from that period will then be sent to TPC for consideration and response. At that point in May, we will come seek this body's recommendation for TPC approval. And then following that, ask for TPC action at the end of May. Following that, as we normally do, we send all of our information, our packet, to Federal Highways Kentucky, who is our our lead federal agency, and then they begin what is a 30-day, a minimum of 30-day review from our partnering agencies before they can give us the stamp of approval on conformity. I'm trying to think. David, you want to hop in here? Anything I forgot? Maybe on the MTP side or anything like that?
No, I think we're in good shape. Nick, you did a great job on explaining all the information. We're just excited to get this underway and to be working with you guys.
Okay. And one more thing to add, for all intents and purposes right now, we plan for this to be the last amendment to the fiscal year 2020 to 2025 TIP. TIPs have to be updated every 2 years. And our last one was approved by TPC in February of 2020. So we need to have another one approved by February 2022. So once we wrap up Amendment 3, we'll start the development of the new TIP, which will be fiscal year 2022 to 2027. So just moving everything out 2 more years. The development of a TIP is just another opportunity to amend projects. So think of it as a glorified amendment. So if you don't get your project changes in through Amendment 3, we'll take care of those through the development of the next. Any questions or comments about Amendment 3 and or the next TIP? Okay. And more information about the new TIP development process will be rolled out in the next few months. Thank you all.
Great. It's always informative. Any questions? I know Nick asked for some, but if there's anybody trying to unmute their mic, I don't see any at this point. So I'll go on to the next item, which is the ITTS Southeastern Freight Conference and Elizabeth Fark. Floor is yours, Elizabeth.
Hi, can y'all hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to update you all on a virtual conference that I attended back in December. Kytc and Jeremy Edgeworth, their freight coordinator there, was kind enough to give me a seat to this conference, and it was very informative to hear about the trends that are going on nationwide and globally. Hear from some NPOs, which was nice, some case studies, and then just kind of get a general sense about what's going on in the freight world. So a couple of things I just wanted to mention. They did talk heavily about trends. That was the theme of this conference. And of course, COVID-19 impacts did come up. From the planning side, what I took away from it was goods have drastically increased. They've become a substitution for services. So if you think about, instead of going to a barber shop to get your hair cut, people are buying scissor kits to cut their own hair. So thinking about that, the online e-commerce demand has increased greatly. So I think everyone is trying to keep up with that and innovate new ways in the supply chain to keep goods moving. Truck parking was again a topic of concern. Jeremy Edgeworth again presented on KYTC's truck parking assessment that he has also talked to us about. It seems, again, no one has the perfect solution, but we're always trying to look at creative ways to introduce more truck parking and to make it safe and efficient and usable for truckers. There's also talk about looking more into private partnerships. So as an MPO, keeping tabs on that and assisting the state where we can with those planning efforts. Also, intermodal opportunities continues to be a topic of conversation. I saw a lot of attention on river ports. There were some MARAD grants that were granted in Kentucky, and people finding creative ways to take some freight off our roadways and potentially use barge in a kind of non-traditional way to take some of those commodities off the roads. So I thought that was interesting. what I'm usually typically interested in is how freight is analyzed, the data. There was some considerations about looking at first and last hour movements for trucks rather than just first last mile, particularly in larger metro areas like Atlanta. But I thought that would be useful for us too as we look into updating the freight plan this next go around with the MTP update. How can we expand and look a little bit more regionally to issues as well, instead of just those first last mile crucial connections. The Atlanta Regional Council also presented on freight intensive clusters, and they actually do individual freight cluster plans, which I thought was interesting in addition to their regional freight plan. So again, that kind of goes against first last hour, but diving into the issues around industrial centers, and they can maybe look a little bit more closely about roadway and even workforce development, getting workforce to those areas, those kinds of issues. And again, heard about some data possibilities with electronic logging device data to get better OD truck information, which is always a struggle for us. And finally, engaging private freight stakeholders. These conferences are a great time to hear from the private sector in their concerns. And even though it is nationwide, it's still applicable to our region. But also hearing from NPOs and how they engage freight stakeholders through surveys, not tied to plans, just kind of on the fly surveys, and also specific outreach about the COVID-19 impacts that these industries are seeing, and keeping tabs on it for long-term planning. I think that will be important, and we can always look at that as, again, we look into updating our freight plan and utilizing freight data for the next MTP update. There is another part to this conference in February that I will also be attending. So if anyone has any questions or would like to chat about any topics, I'm happy to look into that for you.
Elizabeth, is that all you had?
Yes, that's all I had. Yeah,
All right.
no action. It was just informative.
Got it. I got a question. We had a freight study done a couple of years ago. What is our next steps as a region? Is there, I'm not really connected as much to freight, but what is our next steps?
Yeah, so we had a freight advisory committee that was established back in, I think, the beginning of 2020. And unfortunately, that was really bad timing with COVID. But we do have that mechanism to gather freight stakeholders and the Ttcc and Ttcc together to talk about issues. And that was the plan. Again, that's just been put on hold. Since the plan was adopted in 2018, I do foresee us updating the data. But I think it has a really good mission, so I'm not sure that I would completely redo it at this point. But we do keep tabs on what's happening in the industry. But yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah. We don't have so much freight centers, but a lot of freight moves through the outlying counties, including Oldham County, either on I-71 or obviously the train runs right through LaGrange and through the center of Oldham County. And just understanding that movement of freight, and again, like you said in the beginning, the changeover from people going to the barber shop versus buying products that allow them to cut their own hair, that's happening across a broad range of products and goods. So we anticipate, I'm assuming, that freight is going to continue to grow exponentially in this region. So wanting to keep it kind of a forefront item.
Yeah, and as we, again, continue to update all of our data sources, when we look into clusters again and updating those freight clusters, we can compare the growth in our region to what it was in 2016, I believe. So again, seeing that change over time and looking at how we need to adjust, particularly those first last mile connections and then the interstates, because you're right, so much freight moves through and out of our region.
Anybody else have any questions or comments for Elizabeth?
Hey, I'd just make a comment. This is Tom Hall with District 5. The cabinet is currently doing a Riverports needs study across the whole state. Of course, we have a Louisville Riverport in the southwestern Jefferson County. And for what it's worth, our district was asked to make comments about needs, Riverport needs in our region. And one of the big references that we used at District 5 to inform our comments was Kipta's freight study and Kipta's freight impediment layer on their website. So, keep up the good work and be aware that those type of studies like freight study are really, really helpful in helping us identify needs and get, potentially get money in the region to help our freight movements.
Okay, thank you, Tom.
I have a question to follow up on Tom's comments. Is that okay to ask?
Yes, certainly.
Thank you. Tom, I would like to know this Riverport study for needs of Riverport. Does it include freight only? Does it include access for people? Transit?
Well, the list of, they asked us to list what potential needs are out there. And one of the needs that was identified, number one, the source I used was to look on Kipta's long-range MTP interactive map. And I recalled that you and TARC have a temporarily funded Riverport circulator project that is looking for some sort of permanent funding because it moves people to jobs. And that was on our list.
Okay, I would like to connect with you and whoever is leading the study. Basically, a lot has changed since this Riverport circulator was put in plan and actually went out of service. But we do know ongoing needs for connectivity, for access for people, including the freight and the rest. So I would appreciate if the access for employees could be considered and if we could be involved.
Sure, and the coordinator of the project manager is Jeremy Edgeworth with Kytc, and if you need his email contact, you can just email me and I'll let you know what that is.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I will be in touch with you. Thanks.
Okay.
Great. And there is a comment related to that. It's from Stacy Burton. It says, thank you for the question, Aida. I had the same question, getting workers for those Riverports.
Thank you, Stacy.
While I'm on the chat comments, Michelle King said, thanks for sharing those insights, Elizabeth. Very interesting information. Is there anybody else that has any questions or comments regarding Elizabeth's report? I don't hear or see any. So I'll go on to the next, which is other business, and Amanda Spencer has a couple of items.
Thank you. So first, Jim, I hope that everybody had the chance to view in the meeting packet at the very end of the meeting packet our memo from staff, which attempts to express our sincere appreciation for Mr. Urban and his time as chairman. We couldn't let this one go because we just simply could not ask for better. The support, the help, the truths that he speaks to us. Thank you, Jim. We also want to say it was a lovely speech that you made. I did not like the final tone you were putting on it, and just want to be clear that we expect to have you again as chairman in the future. So that story isn't finished.
All depends on how long I keep working, I suppose, isn't it?
Yes, thank you. And with that said, we are thrilled to have Keith and Brittany also moving forward. That was the first thing. And then the second thing is staff's been talking a lot about, we really want to encourage folks to use this other business time. Let's help each other. Let's share information about meeting dates, about current initiatives, and be thinking about that for the future. You may not have everything handy right now, but of course, if you do, let's hear it. Does anybody have anything that, any meeting dates or any open public comment periods that you want to share so we can all help each other get the word out?
Can I share some?
Yeah.
Yes.
If I may share some information, great moment to mention two big TARC projects, Comprehensive Operations Analysis and Long Range Plan, funded by Kipta and Kytc, and obviously TARC and Metro. And we are thrilled for support to this project a long time now, and provided funding to basically evaluate the system, improve efficiency, and propose the changes. Obviously, this past year, COVID year, 2020, had major impact on transit industry and mobility across the world. So TARC is adjusting, TARC is surviving, and TARC is serving community proudly and our essential workers. With these two planning projects somewhat being on hold in the past year, now we are reactivating both projects. Actually, that already happened last year in November. And the COA, Comprehensive Operations Analysis, somewhat changed, but will be completed by the end of March. So there will be more discussion with project partners and potentially some improvements to transition us between this major drop in ridership that we had over the past year and going back to more normal and hopefully reactivating community mobility and bringing ridership back. So the COA will be concluded with some recommendations, and the long-range plan will be kicked off in spring. So there will be opportunity for all of you to be part of the project, comments, public input, agencies input. We all know that these projects can be completed without very strong interagency coordination. So I look forward to continue working with Kipta, state, public works, Metro, all of you, to basically provide your input on the TARC long-range plan and help us shape up this process, probably run it parallel with connecting Kentuckiana public, whatever activities happen on this plan and MTP. I will keep you posted, and so will Kerry, I'm sure, but I wanted to use this opportunity to share the information, alert you on these processes, and hopefully get your input as we go. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Aida.
I also have a plug. We sent out the Active Transportation Plans public survey yesterday afternoon. We already have over 150 responses. Wow. So please check out. We're slowly getting it out to our email list and to, I'll send you the link. Actually, Michaela just posted it in the chat if you want a quick access to the link, and I'll be sending it out to Ttcc and TPC members this afternoon. But you can also go on our Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram platforms and share those. Please encourage your family and friends. I had like a personal friend share it on her Facebook, and it made me so happy. So please get the word out, because that's a very important topic. Connection to transit, with the long range plan with TARC, we can share that information too. And just helps us all plan better if we can hear from the public. So yes, that's the plug for the survey.
Great. If you want to go to your chat real quickly and look at that link, or Elizabeth, you did say it was also in the email you sent out. So anybody from the public that wants to, we've got a minute or so left before we probably close the meeting. Anybody else that has any other business to bring before the TTCC? Hearing and seeing none, I will make the motion to close this meeting. I just need a second.
So moved. Aida.
Motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor, I'm assuming, will just sign off. And again, thank you.